think I've gotten all of the folks out of the waiting room. Um, okay, so we've got a smaller intimate class so far. Today's going to be a pretty easy going, simple class. Um, what we're going to do is we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I just want you to do some discussion on your master plan assignment. Like, what do you envision doing with it? Um, if you're having problems, it's a great opportunity to engage in a group setting, ask people for advice, or your TA for advice. If you want to discuss like graduate school, professional school, kind of post bachelor's degree, that's a good chance for us in group setting to also have those discussions, because they might be what's holding you up from finishing the assignment, right? So I want to provide you that opportunity to have some of these discussions today in a smaller breakout room. And then we'll also, do as we usually do and come back together afterwards in a larger setting. Um, I was trying to have the examples from my last class available to watch, but for some reason, whenever I share the screen, it doesn't show the video that I want to show you, which is a student's project. I've been told that the video links do work. So if you give me a minute, what I can do is I can actually show you on Gaucho Space where we are um, with those examples, right? So if you go all the way down to where your master plan assignment is, right, you can view that. Sorry, makes it easier. You can see, wait, where did it go? There we go. Master plan presentations. You open the folder and there's two that you can choose from to view. Again, unfortunately, for whatever reason, whenever I try to present it through Zoom, it's not allowing me. I probably don't have the right package in order for that to happen. But again, if you go to Gaucho Space, these links do work on their own. You can get ideas. One of them is a movie that a student created um, explaining an Excel sheet, right? So they used an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of year one, year three, year five, and then they just presented it over video. And the other one is a PowerPoint presentation, right? So it gives you kind of two different options on top of what we've already discussed with a collage, right? A poster of sorts where you create a collage, that visual imagery. You can also, if you just want to use words for your columns, I've had students also say that they're struggling for one way or another to find visual representations of what they want to do, so they just want to write it down. Again, one of the examples I was planning on showing was of one of my students doing an Excel sheet presentation, right, where it's just everything categorized for them in in a way that they visualize better, right? So spreadsheets work for him, PowerPoint worked for someone else, and so it just gives you kind of an opportunity to see what you can work with as well. Um, so what the plan is we'll go into breakout rooms next, and then we'll have discussion from there. Do you all have questions before we go into breakout rooms that we can kind of deal with before? No? Yes, Rena.
Professor, I use the only video and vision board while explaining, talking. That's it. Is that okay? Because I could use PowerPoint, but I didn't.
Um, Poster vision boards are the old school PowerPoints.
Okay.
For those of us that existed before PowerPoint became a platform, we had to use poster boards for our
Oh,
presentations.
so I have just used the poster and I have shared the one screen of that one at the beginning, and then I have just videoed my explanation. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. And then
Keep it simple.
if I post that one, is it going to be seen? Because I don't know if it's going to work or not. How
You don't know if what's going to work
if
either.
whenever I upload it inside Gacha.
It should work. It's I know that it allows all platforms to upload, so you
Okay.
shouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else before we go into breakout rooms?
There, there, do you know if there is a size limit on the videos
What I have
when
found,
uploading it to Gotcha Space?
what I've found is that if you keep it within 5 to 7 minutes at the longest, that still works. Anything above like 7 minutes, it might not accept or it might take too long. Um, that's what I've heard other students experience in the past. So
Okay, thank you.
you can use it kind of as an opportunity to find a way to condense right what you're trying to envision in this 3 to 5 minute format. Sorry, we've got ambulances running by. But that's also similar to what was going on with um, IRCA, with what they were telling us in terms of the undergraduate research slam, right? You get 3 minutes to present your work, right? Your passion, your research, strategy, all of that. So this is just kind of, if you envision it in that way, excuse me, it should allow you to start practicing towards accomplishing that too. Uh, Gul, you had a question?
Yeah, so for year 3 and 5, those are the years after we graduate, right? Okay. I just wanted
Yes.
to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
So
Sorry.
what was that, Rena?
She said 1, 3, 5 after graduation or from now, because there is a
Oh,
difference.
the years 3 and 5 are for after graduation, right? That's if you're looking at it, you're starting right now
Mhm.
is your year one. And so the goal, if all things go well, is that by year 3, you're finishing your bachelor's degree, right?
What if I have said that 3 is part of my education, 5 is only after my graduation?
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Everybody has individual goals, right?
Oh yeah, sorry.
So no, the this is great because you don't want to fall into the trap of measuring yourself up with somebody else to accomplish in on their deadline, right? The goal is to be true to yourself and honest and say, hey, this is what I think can happen. Because the reality is things could go a lot better, smoother, faster, and a year 3 goal could turn into year 1. Or it could happen in the opposite way, where year 1 goal turns into a year 3 goal. Some of us, whatever we want to do in year 1, for others, it's year 3, right? But this is all about the individual and what your goals are at that level, right? And, what are some of the strategies? What are some of the resources? So you're talking academics, but, there's also personal life to consider here, right? There's personal health, there's financial health, there's all these other goals that we can set for ourselves. And, that can be opportunity for you to discuss as well. Ashley, you have your hand up.
Yeah. I was playing with the thing that I'm going to use for my video. The unfortunate thing, it doesn't show my face. You just hear me like talking over a set of images. Is that okay too?
Yes, that works. I had some students who who actually didn't give me permission. They were a little more sketchy about sharing, but they did videos where it was their voiceover whatever video collage, digital video collage they created. So yes, you don't have to put your face in it, right? But you're sharing it, so your voice is going to come out, and that's fine with me.
Thank you. I probably spent like an hour trying to fix the trying to have a face in there, but I'm like, this is not helping.
No, no
But
worries. Work with what you have. You know, don't create too much stress for yourself. If that's happening, then take a step back and find out how you can keep it simple and accomplish the same, right? So poster boards, collages, words. You know, if you're ever in those situations, I know I've been in a situation where, shoot, I was asked to give like a last minute presentation, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And it's just a matter of like kind of working with the resources you had available. In the very beginning, I was just gathering my notes and using like a marker board and writing. Right afterwards, after a couple of years, I already had slides that I can take from different lectures, pull them together, and create a presentation. Right, so there's so much that you can learn from this process that, um, you know, it's just a part of participating in it. I don't want it to create stress. I just wanted to show you how you work, right? How you learn also. Okay, so I won't take any more of your individual time. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the rooms, and then I'll check in with you all in a few minutes. Okay.
Had any mandatory journal articles. So if you found some that are interested related to your field or anything like that, you could include that, right?
Thank you so much.
Of course. Any other general questions? These are all great.
Master program, how much time does that take?
A master's program?
Yeah.
Depends on what field you're in. Typically, they're 2 to 3 years. What is your
Okay.
master?
Spanish.
Spanish. So,
Sociology.
sorry, sociology. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Spanish and sociology.
Okay. I think it would be about 2 to 3 years. Sometimes you can make it 2. There's expedited ones that can make it 1. It just kind of depends on what program you're looking into and what school you're looking at.
Okay.
That's about the time frame.
Cool. Thanks.
Uh-huh. And I'm happy to answer any of those questions later on too. Did you have something to say, Mario?
Yeah. Regarding the masters, a good way to kind of conceptualize it too is that, as you mentioned, Jessica, depending on the system, right? So like Cal States in general, they're 2 to 3 year programs, and oftentimes they're terminal, which means that afterwards, that's kind of you're done. If you wanted to pursue a doctoral degree, right, you might have to rework your master's. And so think of it this way, right? Again, you're always strategizing to try to give yourself options. If you think that long term you might want to pursue a PhD, then it might be in your best interest to do an MA PhD program. And then you know that with your master's, you're good to go, but you've opened up the opportunity to come back and finish that PhD. Um, the other way to think of it is, you know what? I just want to do my master's. And then life presents an opportunity for you where you're like, hey, work and all this, I really want to get a doctorate degree. And then you're looking at PhDs or EDDs, right? Or PsychDs. There's different types of doctoral programs. And then you'd have to deal with whether or not you have to retake classes or rewrite a master's degree, because that's also a reality that some of my peers had to go through. Was they have a master's degree from Cal State, fill in the blank, and then when they went to their PhD program at UC, they were asked to redo some of that work for their master's, refile their master's degree under the UC umbrella, and then they can move forward. So depending on the system is also kind of you have a certain approach, and one might work for you better than the other. I had friends that came in from Cal States, and you'd think it took them longer, but they were done before I was. They just had a leg up on how they wanted to approach. And I had already started growing a family, so I slowed down a little bit at the same time. Again, everybody's on a different kind of a path, and you're just there to help each other out. So I just wanted you to consider that, because there is a very distinct process that our graduate students go through depending on Cal States versus UCs and even privates.
Thank you. That's really good to know.
Awesome. All right. Any other kind of general questions before we head on into the master project / plan conversation? No? All right. So this is the kind of format that I'm thinking we can do, just because we have a more intimate class and we can have these kind of discussions. Kind of just starting off with what your format might be for your master plan, right? What you plan to do for it. And then also talk about some of the goals that you're including in your 3-year or your 5-year. Something that I will say is to be a little bit specific when you're talking about those goals. Some of the journal entries that I'm reading are really, really great, and you have great ideas, but I want you to kind of tune into what are some of the UCSB resources and specific steps you can take when you're talking about your master plan or creating it or presenting it in that video, right? So just keep that in mind if you want to join an organization, if that's one of your goals. How do you do that? Where are you going to go look at UCSB? Are you going to look at student resource building, the SRB? That's a great one. So just kind of being more specific in those steps towards that goal. So let's go ahead and get started with kind of talking about the format, and then what are some of the goals that you have. The way I like to do it through Zoom is that we do popcorn style. So one person
information related to it.
Veronica's a good name.
Yeah.
So I'll try to look into reaching out to her, it sounds like.
Yeah,
for that.
I can also send you her info. Did you want to cover anything else about your plans?
That was basically it, just getting into that one-year teaching credential program my 3rd year, and then the 5th year is just trying to become a teacher. So
What kind of teacher would you like to become?
high school biology.
Nice.
So that's why biology is taking up a big chunk of my studies at the moment. Like I have 3 STEM classes, one of them being OChem, which is actually under, and then 2 not undergrad STEM classes. So a little nervous about them, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's good. You got a good plan.
I just stepped into this, but I mentioned this last class, and because you're specifically mentioning the 1-year credential program, I'll mention it to you all. I usually suggest to my students that are interested in teaching K through 12 to volunteer at the local schools. Usually they need tutors. Usually they need after school program folks. So you're going to be either in charge of leading a class, and the after school programming helps with tutoring in math, reading, science. And what I've seen is students work their way in as volunteer tutors, and then get hired in the after school program under work study, and then that rolls into kind of an extension uh, of their undergraduate work, where they stay on as professionals. They work full time after they graduate from UCSB, and the connections they make there as they even as they transition to the 1-year program are super helpful, because then you have maybe a more personal understanding of what grade level requirements and needs are for different kids, because you've worked with them, through your exposure of these after school programs. And oftentimes what you see in the after school programs are the bigger issues that occur during the school day, because the kids in the after school programs are often enrolled so that they can have some extra interaction one-on-one with some academic professional, right? So I would encourage you to reach out and see if there's any of the local schools that are taking in any volunteers, because those are probably the schools that they'll have you putting in your work and your hours if you get into the teacher credential program. So it could work for you twofold, where rather than needing experience or a ton of it to research experience to qualify for grad school, you could use your professional experience as a tutor, as an after school programmer, to get the letters of recommendation that are going to get you into graduate school. Because these people are like, she's already teaching, he's already teaching, they're already doing this. We need them to get their credential to come out and do it full time. And then that pushes a committee into saying, wow, here's someone who's practicing their pedagogy. And on our end of it, we can devote more time to other students and they could possibly help us out as team leaders. There's a whole way that people can see you on an admissions committee that you would never envision yourself. But I'm just giving you that opportunity to do that now, because I've heard people from these committees. And I think that that's definitely something that has benefited some of our students that have gone through that teacher credential program. They just, I mean, they love working with the local schools.
That's good.
Thank you for your advice. I definitely need to look into more like tutoring. Like I was thinking CLAS, but maybe getting more involved with high schoolers and college students might be a little bit better.
It could be your side hustle. You could do CLAS, and through CLAS advertise at local schools and say, look, I'm a UCSB tutor. You know, can I hang up my little poster flyer and advertise with your students on my, you know, some schools, you know, might not, but it allows you that you could just advertise for yourself around campus as long as AS stamps on it too. So, you know, just consider it. There's options. You don't have to just be one or the other.
Anybody else want to talk about their plan?
I'll go ahead. So my name's Alyssa. I'm a biopsych major, and for the next year, my main focus is really to get my foot into like the research field and kind of get some experience in labs and like working with professors as research assistants. So really by either winter or spring, I would like to get into one of those positions, mostly because that's a possibility of like where I want to go career wise. Like I want to go into the research field possibly, but also kind of like similar to Ashley, I'm starting to consider going into sort of education and working as a high school counselor, like a guidance counselor or something, because I've worked with that age group before and I really like helping them. But I still want to have like a solid background in psychology and biopsych, and I really want to understand the science behind it, but then kind of go into something that is more face-to-face and actually applying what I learn and helping like troubled youth or something like that. So that's possibly where I want to be in the next 3 years. It's really kind of up in the air right now. However, after my undergrad, I do plan on taking a gap year before applying for a master's program, possibly in education or just pursuing more in-depth research to go into that field. So in 3 years, I'll probably be within my master's program or starting it, and in 5 years, probably finishing that up and starting on my career, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I think like I had mentioned earlier as well, I would recommend also looking into the minors for education, because they'll be covering on a lot of the themes that you're mentioning right now, right? Like different learning strategies. So, what it's like to actually work with, youth and children. So yeah, and I think CCSP also has an applied psych minor, so there's also relevant courses there as well.
The cool thing about the clinical counseling and school psychology program is that they operate at UCSB on campus. So you have the teaching side of the program, but the practitioner side runs out of the GGSC, also the Gewurz Graduate School of Education. So there's definitely opportunity as an undergrad for you to get an insight into that. And I actually started going to therapy through them when I was an undergrad. And then I transitioned into the community therapists that student health recommends. And so, you can see it from both angles. You could see what services they offer, how you can personally benefit, and then roll that into part of your educational package as well. Like, hey, if that worked for me, I have an interesting take on that, right? And so you can have those conversations. As Bertin mentioned, minor classes are available, so look into them. I'm gonna jump rooms and go bug some other folks. But y'all are doing a great job. I'll see you in a minute.
Thanks, Mike.
Later.
You do other stuff, right? Like it's a good opportunity to have other experiences that actually shape who you are more when it comes time to go to graduate school. And maybe it will, change your mind a little bit or help you make up your mind between, law school path or the social work path that you were talking about.
Yeah, so I think that's important, or just time to like either volunteer or, like you said, get more experience, because I don't think I'm cut out to be a politician. So I definitely think that my options right now feel a little bit limited in like law school or something in that realm. So I definitely want to see how I like the social service work without a further degree from my bachelor's degree.
That's a really good attitude. I like that. Your plan seems kind of locked in, solid. Cool. Is anyone else up to share? Now in front of the professor, sorry. Big pressure.
I would like to share some things, but I have like some specific goals and then like some more broader goals. So like, my first goal is obviously good grades. Since I'm like a pre-med major, it's like even more important for me. And I also want to form like connections with professors, since it's like harder now that you're not seeing them in person. So like emailing them or like going to office hours and stuff like that. And then I also applied to become the peer mentee. So I have that. And then I also looked for a job on the UCSB, like the handshake. There's a job at the UCSB Children's Center. So like, I want to become a pediatrician. So I think that's going to be a good opportunity if I get that job. Yeah.
I'm only laughing. I'm only laughing because my youngest is enrolled at the Children's Center, and you're quickly educated on how fast things can transmit from one child to the next when your child begins daycare anywhere, right? And like this past year, if you take COVID out, our kids, they caught whooping cough, they caught hand, foot, mouth disease, on top of like the colds and the flus that come with it. But that's stuff that generally doesn't happen outside of like daycare, right? And so one of the cool things that they're actually working on is on figuring out a more strategic approach at their medical responses and at how they sanitize in their centers. It just creates, with COVID now, it creates so many additional necessities, right? We're having an on-site expert with with the biology or chemistry of whatever is going on of the right of the various diseases or viruses, it's needed, right? Whether it's on campus or specifically, somehow I've heard our daycare center planning to have some kind of a council of local pediatricians. And so, I could see you rolling into um, some kind of a career profession that way and saying, you know what, my experience with working with children here, and guess what, that can also turn into a side job where you're consulting people in a very direct way on this, on the education side of daycares, how they handle, how they roll out, how they're sanitized, while at the same time, being a whole professional in the medical world. But you're able to navigate both, which is something that I would suggest to all of you. As students at UCSB, you have an excellent job, opportunity to become an academic entrepreneur. And that means a lot, right? Like you can start your businesses off the side of what you're doing professionally from your degree. And there's very specific things that we specialize in that could lead us into larger opportunities for income or just social assistance, right? Public service, social service, sometimes they intertwine. And so that's kind of one of the things I'd like for you all to think about. Um, the value of entrepreneurship in your own education, right? I would have never thought that I could be doing some of the things I'm doing outside of teaching or doing research at a university, right? And so, like consulting with juvenile halls, continuation schools, high schools, or even, other programs that have the ability to reach out to students that need the representation and the information. Like 10 years ago, when I started college, I didn't think that was going to happen, right? Especially because of the path I took. But for you all, just understand that's your possibility. You're here. And so it's one of the things that I like about this project is just seeing your vision for yourself, right? And just such a limited time you've been bombarded by all these different resources, right? And here I'm asking you to kind of create something out of it, and understanding full well it could be changed by the time you're done. But it's never a bad time to be planning. Cool. Hey, I'm gonna leave you all. I've interrupted your conversation enough.
That's all.
I'll leave you all. What was that?
No, I said it's good. It's good. Thank you.
No problems. I'm gonna leave you, and then in a couple minutes we'll join back up in large group session. All right.
Sounds good.
See you in a bit.
Did you want to add anything else?
Now we're shy. It's okay. We're gonna have the rest of the group join us shortly, hopefully. There we are. Nice. So how'd the sessions go? I heard some really good conversations from all the groups as I jumped in and out. So let me ask, what was something that you learned from your session? Right, we had plans about the assignment going into it, or even our individual goals. How did the session provide you with information? What did you make of it?
It's just kind of interesting to hear different people share their what the ideas they have so far, just to see how people are really kind of like approaching it from different angles, like not just like different goals or different majors, but sort of conceptualizing it in a different way. Either like part of the discussion that we had was about the difference between like sort of like as concrete a plan as possible towards specific goals versus like options open, or planning for possible different outcomes. So that was definitely an interesting part of that conversation with the group.
That's good. I heard, flexibility as part of a topic that you discussed, right? Understanding that even though you have plans, you might have to adjust. You probably will. And then just kind of seeing that you have options from there, right? And one thing to be clear that, for all of you is that I am asking you, academically slash professionally, what your goals and aspirations are, but I'm not limiting you to that. Like I mentioned before, you do have personal goals, and I could see how they might even cross paths, as I mentioned in another group. You might have a professional job as a lawyer, and then put in some of your own time helping out a local nonprofit, right? And maybe some of the social work that you provide them with, helps move that community forward, helps provide a service that might not usually be there. But again, there's different ways of operating, um, or looking at these goals, right? So, excuse me, that way you don't just focus academically, right? That's that's one way. That's just, as Matt I think put it earlier, that doesn't define you, right? You're an academic, you're in school, but that's just one part of you. And so how this affects or interacts with those other spaces, is what makes your master plan interesting and unique, right? Um, why don't we hear from someone else? Let's see if we can get a volunteer. If not, I'll pick on someone. Hey, Billy Jack.
Hey, so someone in my group brought up travel, not just in, I think it was Jocelyn, not just in the form of study abroad, but just travel in general, which is something I hadn't initially thought of including in that plan, but I probably will now, because a lot of travel can also help you in your professional and academic pursuits, just getting a better kind of understanding of the world around you through immersion travel. So I thought, yeah, that was something interesting that I hadn't considered to put in there.
I think travel is great. As populated as California is, as expansive as it is, having grown up in Southern California, I was raised between Los Angeles and San Bernardino all the way until I was 20. I never made it further north than LA, having lived in California my whole life. And, talk about opening your eyes up, right, to a whole new world, like just traveling up the state and experiencing all the different ecosystems that we can encounter, um, seeing people in different ways of life, right? And just like seeing what even as a state it has to offer, it just opens your mind up. And I remember experiencing the same way once I started, um, traveling for like conferences. I used it as an excuse for my family to go along, and it would be like a quick mini vacation. No big deal. But they were included in it. They were able to go to Philadelphia. They were able to travel to Vancouver. They've been able to travel to San Francisco, to different spots, right? And experience that at a younger age than I ever did. So the idea there is for me, is twofold, right? Is to help me understand and explore this expansive world. But then the other side is to offer that to my children, who will hopefully take up the offer sooner than later, right? And so there's so much to learning about that. I remember being a kid and thinking, when everybody would tell me, "Oh, you have to be a cultured person, when you grow up." And what they meant by cultured was being read up on a bunch of European history and European literature, and it was pretty Eurocentric, right? And so what I've come up with in my own definition of culture has expanded that, right? So if I'm going to be cultured, if I'm going to interact with a community of many different countries, right, like UC Santa Barbara, then there's something to learn about these unique cultures I'm interacting with. And every opportunity, even on campus, like the different events that are presented, is always a cool way to find yourself in a different space and to just like immerse yourself in their culture. But who knows? Maybe there's ways that you can bridge that into your own way of being, right? Those Santa Maria tri-tips have emerged themselves into people's lives out here in the Central Coast. I've had friends, from other parts of the country. They're like, we ain't never had tri-tip or grilled like that. And then they come out here, right? Culture meets you, slaps you in the face with a torta.
I just had some tri-tip this past day in Santa Barbara at it's in the Funk Zone. That place, what's that place called? Begins with an S. The meat company down there.
Oh, I'm not hip to the Funk Zone, man. I'm a dad of 3.
Oh,
and
well.
I haven't been down there in like years.
It was good.
That's funny. Tri-tip gets them every time, guys. Yeah, but it's cool. Travel, definitely. And then you have the travel abroad department just local here. So you don't have to go far or mail your things far in order to deal with that program as well. So you get plenty of business and education opportunities from them as well. UCDC, right? Everything that we've been talking about as an extension to like IRCA, as an extension to EOP, so on and so forth, right? Transfer Student Center. Those resources are all, they're just getting your foot in the door to get you to go somewhere else and ultimately represent UC Santa Barbara, right? Because once you're a part of our community and network, if you leave with a degree, you've just become an extension of that, right? So that's something that I know that EOP kind of likes to shine a light on for their employees, their student employees, and say, hey, once you've been brought into the EOP family, you need to understand what that brand means, right? Like you have a brand, and how you manage it online is where sometimes people lose it. So your online presence, how you promote yourself, is an extension of how you promote UC Santa Barbara, right? So just as young professionals and academics in your own way, I think if you take that approach, right, to your experience here, you'll definitely go a long way. Understanding how you are a brand, and that brand travels with you, right? Just speaking about traveling, there's something else that travels. So let's see, Bertin, Matt, is there anything that you want to share from your sessions that you think stood out?
I think we covered a lot of it there. You said Matt, right?
Yeah, both of you. Either one.
Sorry. I didn't want to jump in and cut off someone else. Yeah, you kind of covered it. I mean, the thing that I hit on earlier and in this session was flexibility, right? Fact that we're not asking you to make a roadmap that we're going to come knock on your door in 3 years and check that you stuck to it, right? But it's just more to get you thinking about where you're going, and how the decisions you make in the near term and the 1 year term are going to influence what you're doing 3 years from now and 5 years from now. And just kind of the importance of having that mindset, but also that ability to be flexible, because as we have seen this year, times change rapidly and opportunities come and go rapidly. So things you think that you might be able to do might not be there in a year, or something new might be there in a year that you can pursue that you didn't even know about before. So flexibility sort of being the key to all that. And then also the balance between the personal and the professional. That was sort of the thing that I led with, right? The idea that like you are not necessarily, and you sort of mentioned it, right? Like your identity is not your job. Like we all go to work and academia is great and we're learning, but there's more to life than work, and family and community are huge parts of that. So when we're thinking about our planning for the future, also keeping in mind you know, how does our family fit into that? How do our friends fit into that? How does our community fit into that? How can we be of service, making a better world, not just making money for ourselves? So that was kind of what we talked about. And then I gave a kick-ass UCSB like pump-up speech at the end, sort of inadvertently, like rushing to the bell when we were going to get kicked back to the main session. And I was saying about like UCSB has so many opportunities, and like we keep pounding this, like there's all these different programs, there's all these different resources that you can access, and how like we're not just blowing smoke. Like there truly are so many things that you can do here, and you definitely shouldn't try to do all of them, but like you should pick and choose the things that really speak to you and take full advantage of them, because this is the only time in your life that like you're going to be in an institution like this that has all these opportunities for you. So yeah, I was pretty proud of myself there.
Martin, you wanna jump in?
I didn't have much to add. I think I also echoed the flexibility aspect, just realizing that, if you don't know what your plan is 5 years out, like, that can change. The main thing is being curious about what you want for the future, and echoing that aspect of, just being able to make a contribution, keeping your degree, open to different possibilities.
That's great advice. One other thing to consider in this process that maybe you had or had not. But I've talked about accountability. I know that's been brought up a couple of times, even from our friends that have visited, and they're like suggesting, right, to be accountable to yourself, be accountable to your studies, so on and so forth. By creating this vision board, it can also create accountability to them, right? So like, you recruited us, you told us you had all these services to offer us, there's all these resources available. Where are they at? Help me out. This is what I want to accomplish, right? So when you go into those departments, you can start saying, look, this is what I had thought about, this is what I had planned. And that's the beginning of your conversation. We just eliminated one of the biggest barriers in terms of initiating contact, right? What to talk about. So you could have an entry to that discussion, and then that segues you into the rest of your 1, 3, and 5 year plans, where you're holding people accountable to what they offered, right? So just like we hold you accountable for putting in your work, it's equally important to hold us accountable in helping you succeed. If you need our assistance, and if it's there, then reaching out to a teacher, reaching out to a TA, reaching out to your peers, and sharing with them could be helpful, right, towards you holding the professionals accountable, right? There's counselors, there's therapists, there's academic advisors, there's all sorts of people for you. And oftentimes we see it in a different way, where it's just all our energy, right, going towards them. But the reality is that it's reciprocal, right? And once you show yourself up, then you create the conversation and go back and forth, right? And that's how you start making some extended connections, I feel. So consider that. Make sure that you hold people accountable to what they said they would do, because otherwise it's just a lot of smoke. And if I always say, just like the saying says, if there's smoke, there's fire, right? And well, the fire is all the resources, right? That's how you make your life lit, literally, by following these people, getting the resources, and making the best of it for yourself, living your best version of you. And definitely, I think that what we're trying to share with you is how you have the ability to communicate with a whole community of people in order to try to accomplish your goals, in order to try to accomplish that next step in your life, whether it's at UC Santa Barbara as an extended stay in our graduate programs, possibly, or whether it's at UC Santa Barbara as a staff member, trying to continue the work that other people have started, right? And so there's so many paths for you to take. Again, this is just a small project to kind of help you focus, maybe prioritize some specifics if you haven't already. And along the way, again, don't feel shy about letting us know what your needs are, so that those that are in your circle can help you find the proper resources. I know TAs are great at that, because um, even though you don't receive constant office hour visits, most of the time when we do receive office hour visits, it's about personal things affecting the academic side of life, right? And so we're there for you before you hit that crisis or chaos mode. And I think it's a great job that we just continually let you know that, right? So today we're gonna cut it a little short. Just wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity to kind of engage the assignment, think about it a little more, maybe gain some ideas off of some of your peers, and then give you a weekend to kind of work on it. Next Tuesday, we'll have Dr. Fomasa, the director of Transfer Student Center and Ondas. She'll be joining us for a brief discussion. So that'll take care of our Tuesday. And then next Thursday will be our last meeting together. We'll have an opportunity, if a couple of you would like to share your master plans, you can share that with the class. And if there's any last questions or comments, we would definitely be there to converse with you. I know, Jocelyn, I feel the same way. As my kids would say, tear. I start complaining about something and they just look at me and they're like, the inside of me wants to go one way, and the outside of me says, you're living in 2020, right? So that brings you to the present. And it's always a good practice of all the skills. Right now, don't think of it like as an end, right? It's not a goodbye. It's a I'll see you later. So that always helps when I've made strong connections to people, students or communities. It always helps to say I'll see you later, because you're bound to return. It's just not a forever type of a statement. So you might not see me every week, but I'll be teaching winter and spring. If you're interested in what I teach, I'll be teaching in the education department. It's socio-emotional connections to education. And you can always pop in and see me there, and we can extend our conversations from summer. I know that Matt and Bertin are also going to be around campus. So on their behalf and on Jessica's, I'll share and extend the same invitation. Just let us know. It's a small community. There's 25,000 of us, but really it tends to be a small community once you end up leaving, of who your friends are, right? So if we end up being friends, that's a cherry on the top for me, and hopefully a step in the right direction for you all, right? So yes, the recording from Tuesday is available on Gaucho Space. I've uploaded the link, so you should be able to access that one. And then right after today's class, I've already got a program to go straight up to YouTube, so it'll upload and should be done within a half hour or so. Cool. Alrighty, y'all. I'm gonna let you go. You have a great weekend. Please stay safe, social distance, wear your masks, and we'll come back around the circle on Tuesday. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.